feel like I need to warn you. This is going to be a pretty dark, I don't know, dystopian conversation. So if you're the type of person who prefers to live with their head in the sand in blissful ignorance of reality, this is not the subject matter for you. But if you're into it, I'm into it. So let's get into it. Okay, this man right here, Kirk, has been getting a lot of attention on YouTube recently for a video he uploaded about his struggles as an average working man, husband, and father, just trying to make ends meet. It's vulnerable, it's raw, and I think it beautifully encompasses the difficult plight of most men today. But a dark future looms on the horizon. Men like Kirk are the last of a dying breed, the last of the average Joes. In the coming years, men like this will be displaced, sedated, and ultimately euthanized by society. Civilization as we know it is collapsing, and when the smoke clears, only two classes of men will be left standing: the men who have and the men who have not. Of course, this applies to women as well. It's just that the brunt lands more squarely on the shoulders of men. But before I go any further, I'll play a clip from Kirk's video because I think it will really help set the stage.
I've been at work since 3 a.m. I'm a delivery driver. This week I'm doing 6 days, Monday to Saturday, 3 a.m. starts, and I am knackered. Usually I work 5 days a week, 5 a.m. starts, apart from Saturdays where I do start at 3 a.m. But I'm covering for someone in the office this week. So it's 3 a.m. starts, Monday to Saturday, 6 days. And I am tired. And I'll probably hit about 45 hours this week. Minimum wage job. I'll be tired all week. And I'll literally will have nothing to show for it. This is what this video is about. It's just going to be me venting. Like yesterday, I went to Tesco's. And I have to do this all the time. Get my calculator out of my phone, go through the list and make sure I don't spend over what we've allocated for it. Yesterday was 20 quid. 20 quid these days doesn't get you a lot in a supermarket. And I'm just fed up of life being like that. I am generally a positive person, but yesterday and today I'm just had enough. So I've pulled over, doing a video. I'll release it later today. No one will probably watch it, but I need to change my fortunes for my family. Financially, we are barely surviving. We don't go out, we don't go. Literally all my money, all our money goes on bills and just surviving. It's not even living, it's just surviving. Like it's Tuesday today. I've got £10 left to last till Thursday. I get paid every Thursday. But come Sunday, Monday, that money that I've earned, there's barely any left. And then you spend the rest of the Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday just penny pinching, just counting down the hours till Thursday. I'm fed up of it. And that's why I'm doing this video. I need to change the fortunes, my family's fortunes. I don't expect this channel to go anywhere, really. You see a lot of people have success on YouTube, but then you also see a lot of people that do it for years and just don't get anywhere. But I need to take steps in the right direction to try and change all that. I actually quite like my job. People I work with are nice people. It's a family run business. The owners are okay. Like, it literally just pays the bills. It doesn't even pay the bills, to be honest. Fed up living paycheck to paycheck. Just need to change things. I'm hoping I can build a YouTube channel. I'm fed up of looking at my kids and feeling like a failure. I don't know if I'm the only guy that feels like this. I'm assuming at this day and age, in these current times in the UK, which is dying, by the way. I'm sure there's lots of men that think the same. They look at their partners, look at their kids, and feel a sense of failure. Like, I look at my kids and just think, they're happy kids, don't get me wrong. But there's a lot of love in our family, a lot of time together, but sometimes they ask for things, and don't get me wrong, they don't ask for a lot, and I just hate having to say no. I've been with my partner for 20 years now. We got together, I'm 45 next month, and I've worked all my life and have nothing to show for it. No savings. We rent the house. We don't own the house. Like, I just think, well, what was the point in all that work? Barely surviving. It's tough. Wreaks havoc with my mental health, but just have to stay strong for the family, don't you? Like, put a brave face on things. I'm sure we're not meant to be born onto this planet just to work and work and work, just to survive. Not even to live, just to survive. I look at my partner and think sometimes, like, we get on really well, she's my best friend. Like, but the whole financial thing, I'd be lying if I said it didn't take a strain on us. I sometimes look at her and think, oh, you could have done so much better than me.
Tugs on your heartstrings, doesn't it? At least it should. I think that most of us men relate to it in varying degrees, clocking in 40 to 60 hours a week, but still not getting ahead. Unlike women, we as men are told from the cradle to the grave that our job is to provide and to protect. So if we struggle to do that, we are failures. We aren't enough. We aren't man enough. I see countless men struggling with this experience and mentality. And why wouldn't they? Modern society and relationships treat and speak about average income men like they are worthless and disposable. The average income man is being priced out of existence by the economy and by entitlement.
Empty tables. I sit at tables that are full. I don't need to bring anything else than my presence, my personality, who I am, and my beauty. I sit there and that's good enough for the guy. What do you bring to the table is broke guy talk. No guy that is actually willing to provide and actually take care of a woman will ever tell you, what do you bring to the table? Shut up.
How much money do you need to make to be considered a man?
If you're making anything under $50,000 a month, you're not a man. I'm sorry, life starts at $50,000 a month.
I had this man ask me on a date tonight, and he said, oh, let's go for drinks. I would love to take you out. And I told him respectfully, no, I only do dinner dates. He was like, oh, I don't do dinner dates on the first date. Blocked. I'm not about to play with y'all, okay? These men, we need to, as women, we need to stop letting these men get away with low effort dates and literally doing the bare minimum.
Good guy, but maybe he doesn't have the income to be, giving $10,000 to a woman to, invest in her business. Absolutely. So what does dating look like for like the average? $100,000 is not even the average person. Let's
Let's keep it
real.
So
let's keep it real for the average person who is making $50,000. That's a good person. What does dating look like for them?
So if you're making $50,000, don't date.
Oh.
I'm just being for real. You're not ready to date. You're not ready to date. And you're not ready to date because courtship costs.
Okay.
Everything costs.
Right.
And I'm not saying you gotta pay to play to be with a woman. I'm simply saying courtship costs.
Right.
It is not free to date. Like, fellas, if you're broke, don't date. You're not ready to date yet. Or get you a bottom of the barrel bitch that's gonna date you when you have no money.
In 50 years, the average Joe will no longer exist. The genocide has begun, and men like Kirk will be the first to go. Men who lack the material means to make themselves valuable enough to gain entry into the gene pool will be eradicated. The harsh truth is, the average wage is no longer sufficient. Forget starting a family. Most people won't even own their own homes. Look at the current marriage rates, divorce rates, childbirth rates. These are not coincidences. This is happening, and it's happening right now in our backyard, whether you like it or not. Average men are falling behind. They say it always gets worse before it gets better, but I'm not sure it's going to get better anytime soon. Technology and AI will continue to replace jobs, but we will also start to see it replacing human relationships. Men who are struggling to succeed in the real world will turn more and more to virtual realities. Video games, porn, AI girlfriends. This is how they will be isolated, pacified, and snuffed out. But this is not new news. There has been a lot of coverage in recent years about the epidemic of lonely men.
I regret to inform you, the men are not okay. That's right, folks, the men are not okay. The men have no friends, no girlfriend, no college education, no money, are breaking their legs and inserting metal rods into their bones to be a few inches taller, and listening to AI Batman help them overcome their pornography addictions.
You deserve real love.
This is nothing new to the human race. Throughout history, only 40% of men ever reproduced, while over 80% of women did. That means that a minority of men have always monopolized the access codes to the majority of women. For every 5 men who will die a virgin unless they pay for professional services or get in line with 1,000 other men for 2 minutes with Lily Phillips and Bonnie Blue, there is a Nick Cannon getting you, your sister, and your best friend pregnant.
He's climbing in your windows, he's snatching your people up, trying to so y'all need to hide your kids, hide your wife, and hide your husband because they everybody out here.
We like to believe the fairy tale that everyone has a person out there for them, that everyone has a soulmate, that everyone can have a loving and lasting intimate relationship, that everyone deserves the chance to get married, to have kids, and grow old beside their spouse and live happily ever after. And honestly, that is the world that I fight for every day. But I'm also a realist. I understand that it's a losing battle because utopia doesn't actually exist. That's the thing about ideals. They are rarely the reality. But I believe ideals are worth fighting for even if they aren't realistic. I believe that is a meaningful and valiant use of free will. The way I see it, the closest mankind has ever come to these idealistic fantasies was probably somewhere between the 60s to the 90s, the golden age of the nuclear family. This was a time where nearly every working man was able to afford a home and provide a stable living for a family. This was a world that allowed the average Joe entrance into the gene pool. But this world no longer exists. Most relationships in America are now dual income and still broke. And this has men and women at each other's throats or just giving up the fight altogether. The current statistics are sobering. Over 40% of women will be 40 and childless in the next 20 years. That is unprecedented. So if only 60% of women are having babies, we are facing a catastrophic collapse in population. And based on these numbers, we can also assume that the number of men who are procreating is far less than the historic average of 40%. If we were to cut and paste the 2-to-1 ratio, we are talking about only 25% of men. A lot of average people don't feel like they can afford to have families anymore, nor do they want to sacrifice what little peace and stability that they have scratched out on their own in order to take on the risks and responsibilities of marriage and children. Besides, women don't need men anymore. They really don't, at least not romantically. Women are no longer physically dependent on men to pay the bills. They can survive on their own. And if a woman is comfortably making ends meet on her own, she's unlikely to want to give that up, to put herself at risk and have kids with a man who can't do more than she already does for herself. You see that all the time. You hear that all the time online. A lot of women see it as a raw deal to get married to an average man, to have to continue to work full-time, split the bills, raise kids on a shoestring budget, take on the majority of home care, and still possibly get cheated on and end up a struggling single mother. Would it not be smarter to stay single, to go on dates once in a while and hold out for the possibility of aligning with a top 20% man? And if that man never comes, so be it. A garden, books, 2 cats, a few friends, a vacation here and there, no responsibilities beyond paying the rent. That doesn't sound so bad. In fact, it sounds strangely familiar. Interesting. Aren't men saying the exact same thing on the other side? Once again, not a coincidence. Men are saying that they are going their own way, that it's better to get a motorcycle, a gym membership, a dog, play video games, go fishing, have an occasional cigar and an old-fashioned with the boys, stay single, keep the peace, rather than take on the massive risks, responsibilities, and commitment of marriage and family, only to end up divorced on a coin flip and spending 18 years a slave to alimony and child support. So I get it. It makes sense on both sides, doesn't it? And I think it's especially true for people who don't have much or who have clawed and scraped to get what they have. Prison and poverty mindset. People who are living in scarcity and fear. It's totally natural. If you only have a little bit of food, you're going to be viciously protective of it. You're probably going to be a little selfish and desperate, squabbling over the crumbs under the table. It makes me think about all the loud, tired, chronically online conversations of people arguing about how men ain't shit and women are gold diggers and who deserves this and who deserves that. Those are peasant class debates, all while men like Elon Musk pay 100 women $100,000 a year just to be on his roster of baby mamas. And you better believe there will be women lined up around the block to sign up for that. So is that what it's coming to? Rich and powerful men monopolizing procreation, harems of concubines like the kings of old. The lords of the land pillage and plunder and invite the fair maidens to dine in their castles while the peasants starve. What happens when women have to choose between working alongside the peasants or sitting at tables with kings? What happens when dating has been reduced to scrolling and swiping through catalogs of attention from all over the world? What happens when men with options no longer see the value in commitment and want to have their cake and to eat it too? What happens when average men can no longer provide comfort, let alone stability? Where will women turn? Will the courage of men fail? Will we evolve with the changing environment, or will we perish? Sometimes I like to picture these social games like a giant nightclub. The top 10 to 20% of people are in the VIP section, popping bottles and posting on social media, fueling FOMO, materialism, and consumerism and comparison. The women who are beautiful enough or who are willing to sell their sexuality for entry can skip the line, while all the average men who have no status, no assets, who can't afford bottle service are left outside to freeze to death. That's just showbiz, baby. That's capitalism. It's a system that encourages competition, growth, and abundance, but it gets twisted and corrupted by consumerism and narcissism very easily. The future is looking a little bleak, my friends, for most people. The game of life now exists behind paywalls that are getting too high for the average man to scale. The wealth gap is increasing and life is becoming more unaffordable. Anyone who's not at the top of the totem pole is feeling the water rise. The middle class is being cut out, leaving only royalty and peasants. And even now, upward class mobility it's far less common than people like to think. Rags to riches stories are outliers. They are lottery winners. People at the top love to get on their soapboxes and preach about how you just have to work harder and that it's all just elbow grease. But what they don't tell you is that the vast majority of successful people are born into opportunity and at least some degree of financial inheritance. They are rarely the ones who grew up in abusive single-parent homes in low-income school districts, working jobs in high school to help pay the bills at home because their daddy don't make enough money to feed his daughters. They aren't the ones who never had a support system for healthy emotional and financial development. They are not the ones who couldn't save for a down payment on a home because they were taking care of a sick parent. They didn't pay for their first car or take on debt to have that nice wedding that you see on their Instagram. So don't be deceived by social media. Most of the people you see enjoying or preaching about financial abundance are lying and scamming to appear rich, or they are genetic lottery winners. I'll keep it real with you. I consider myself to be one of the lucky ones. Yes, I work hard. I've put in more than 50 hours a week, every week for the past decade. Yes, I've made some intelligent long-term decisions, but honestly, I never had to dig myself out of some childhood hellhole. My mom and dad stood tall, and I've been allowed a chance to stand on the shoulders of their sacrifices and reach higher than they ever allowed themselves to reach. They weren't perfect by any means, but I had a stable platform to take advantage of many opportunities that most people never get. I have 5 brothers and 2 sisters, and my parents worked very hard to ensure that we were set up for success to the best of their ability. I have a healthy income, well above average, and I get to create these videos in my spare time simply because I enjoy the process of writing and creating, and because I enjoy thinking about and talking about things that I think are important. I'm not here to sell you guys a facade or try to act like I'm some self-made superhero. The bottom line is, we are all given cards to play, and play them we must, even if we don't have an ace in the hole. And yeah, historically, maybe there would be the threat of a bloody rebellion, an uprising of the average Joes to eat the rich and take back some power. But I don't see that happening in today's world. Men are too pacified and comfortable. People typically only move to action when they are in immense pain and discomfort. But the modern world is like a very comfortable pillow-filled coffin. So I think a lot of men will just lay in it, hook themselves up to the dopamine devices, and accept their fate. And then you have some men who might start using their passports. I see a lot of people online trashing and blaming Western women, but I think what's really behind a lot of the whole passport bro movement is average men looking to be able to have more skin in the game and be respected in places where the dollar goes a little farther. Sure, there's a lot of predatory guys involved there, and there's a lot more to unpack on that conversation, but I don't have time for that today. And still, other men will go their own way, get a dog and find a way to live out their days in peace and solitude, or maybe some will try to make it homesteading or communal living on some small parcel of land far removed from 9-to-5 slavery and the hedonic hamster wheels of rent and work in city centers. Maybe men are just throwing in the towel and saying, leave the access to procreation and materialism to the Tates and Elons of this world.
I had these guys selling their houses, life savings, loans, all of it to me. Give me it all.
About 4 wives from Ethiopia.
It will be interesting to see how the next 50 years plays out. Could this really be the end of everything we've ever known? Do I think a man can meet an ideal woman but then withdraw because he isn't ready financially or otherwise? Or does that just mean that he's not interested? I think that it is 100% possible for a man to choose to run from fear rather than towards love, to run towards pride and safety rather than towards vulnerability and risk. I think finances are a minefield in the modern world between men and women. And one thing I think women can struggle to empathize with is a man's lived experience when it comes to things like provision. Most of us men are conditioned with the belief that if you can't provide the ideal lifestyle as advertised on social media, then you're not a real man. And women will always be comparing you to all of the things that you can't give her, always looking for greener pastures and deeper wallets. I know for me that's been very difficult to navigate emotionally. It wasn't until I felt a lot more successful on paper that I began to feel secure enough to consider true commitment. The expectations around money can be a huge source of insecurity and fear in a lot of men, and it definitely can cause them to either avoid relationships or show up poorly within them. I think we can meet great people, but then allow our fears and insecurities to overrun us and to self-sabotage. And that said, I also think some people can use their fears as an exit strategy, so they can play house for a little bit and keep one foot out the door, live rent-free, and avoid any further commitment or responsibility.